Other partners of the Atlas Network, the Leadership Institute, and our friends, the Global Alliance of the Center Right, the IDU. Many of us have been talking about the IDU for years. The dangers of the IDU, how they've infiltrated politics, how they continue to implant their people. Canada's 22nd Prime Minister was unanimously elected chairman of the International Democrat Union at the party leaders' meeting in Madrid, Spain, held on February 21st, 2018. Mr. Harper succeeds the Right Honourable Sir John Kay, former Minister of New Zealand, as chairman of the IDU. That's right, folks. Former Prime Minister Darth Vader himself, Stephen Harper, is the leader of the IDU. Especially current leader Benjamin Netanyahu ensuring a public display of unconditional support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine on numerous occasions. And all this led to one of the most, one of the most memorable, embarrassing, just unforgettable moments in Stephen Harper's career. So he could have just said, "Hey, Jew," and the brilliance of Stephen Harper on the keyboard, serenading with a massive show of bromance to then current Prime Minister, evil son of a bitch, Benjamin Netanyahu. And why do I say evil son of a bitch? Well, because Netanyahu is part of the Likud Party. Likud Party joined the IDU in September of 2018. Pictured here, Mr. Stephen Harper and Likud Foreign Affairs Director Eli Hassan. Ensured that Netanyahu links the far-right titan as Jewish home Likud signed the agreement. From the Israeli propaganda machine I-24 News, Netanyahu's okay with bringing racists into Israel parliament because there was no other choice and we need to win. The Likud parties. Eli Hassan tells Amy Kaufman for the elections in 2019. Oren Hassan having a selfie with 45. Well, but back to the Manning Foundation, approximately 10 years ago. And this is a very interesting story indeed.
Microscope. It was released today by the Manning Foundation for Democratic Education and looks at voting patterns of all aldermen when it comes to spending. But as the CBC's Tara Fadun explains, the findings are raising a few questions.
The foundation believes strongly that democracy hinges on the way that voters are able to understand how their elected representatives behave.
And with that, a report is released by the nonprofit Manning Foundation. It looks at 73 council votes over the last 3 years, focused specifically on taxation and spending.
We feel that we're solving a real problem here, which is simply lowering the costs to voters of monitoring their councillors' behavior.
Among the highlights, who votes no to increase spending and who votes yes, who raises the most questions, which aldermen vote alike or against one another, and how much time is spent in camera where discussions and decisions are in private. The foundation maintains there is no agenda.
The main thing about this is that it's up to voters to judge. We're providing the information, and we've tried to do it in as value-neutral way as possible.
That individual who was with the Manning Foundation covering data for the city of Calgary 10 years ago, but he seemed to pop up somewhere else recently. Oh, that's right. He is the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand. I shit you not. The guy who was part of the Manning Foundation for Democratic Education doing a investigative whatever panel report for Preston Manning and his foundation 10 years ago is now the leader of Act for Freedom in New Zealand, and as of last week became the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, part of a three-party coalition.
The National Party inked a deal to form a new three-party coalition government on Friday, after weeks of negotiations over ministerial roles and policies. Prime Minister-elect Christopher Luxon said the new government's first order of business would be to bring down inflation, narrowing the remit of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand to focus monetary policy only on price stability.
Really important, we don't believe the dual mandate model has worked. We want a single mandate. We think making it very clear to the Reserve Bank that there is a single goal of price stability gives massive certainty to everybody in the country.
A key sticking point in the discussions was who will take the role of Deputy Prime Minister. The coalition said the role will be split between the leaders of two parties, David Seymour, who heads the Libertarian ACT Party, and Winston Peters from the populist New Zealand First Party. When asked about China's growing influence, Peters, who will also serve as foreign minister, compared the relationship between China and New Zealand to that between New Zealand and Niue, a small island country in the South Pacific.
Size doesn't matter. Respect does. That's all we ask for.
The coalition has said they plan to, quote, rewrite the Arms Act without giving further details, and would undertake a review of the gun registry that was introduced after a gunman killed 51 Muslim worshippers in 2019. The agreement also lays out a shift in policy towards the country's indigenous Maori people, with plans to roll back the use of the language and review affirmative action policies, a move that outgoing Prime Minister Chris Hipkins said was, quote, going backwards by 3 or 4 decades. The group also plans to roll back a ban on offshore oil and gas drilling, as well as overturn a ban introduced by the previous Labour government on the sale of cigarettes to future generations.
The Leadership Institute and says, what do we want to look at? We want to look at the states? No, let's look at Canada. And what do they offer in Canada? They offer this. The Joseph U. Oswald Patriot Online School Board Training Program. How to run for school board and win. And that, my friends, is what Take Back Alberta and all the people that are connected to the Strong and Free network that we talked about in part 1 want to do. They want to take over the school board. Why do you want to take over the school board? Because then you can indoctrinate the children and ensure that the education they're receiving is Christian conservative values.